Everybody, thanks so much for being here and for volunteering to take on the task of membership at your club. I'm a new member to the Rotary here in White Bear Lake, just been involved for about a year and a half. I've been a member of the Rotary in different places, in Iowa first, and then most recently out in Pennsylvania. But I've always been interested in membership and served on membership teams in both of those locations. So I'm happy to take over this coming year in the district membership role. Greg Bartz has had that role for a while, and he's going to focus on the White Bear Lake Club. He'll continue to be part of the district membership team, but I'll be the team lead formally starting this spring. So welcome. We have probably too many people on the call here to introduce each other. So as you come in, and I hope that it is a conversation, there'll be plenty of time for questions along the way. And then at the end, if you would just identify what club you're part of as we go along. So I've got a few slides. Ed, do you want to bring up that first slide?
I just realized I don't have them set up here, and I'm trying to find them. I apologize.
That's okay.
Should have had that set up here.
That's okay. That's fine. I think that sometimes we make a mistake in the area of membership by thinking of membership and the need for members as our primary task. And so tonight I'll be talking a little bit about a two-part membership approach. And these are all things that you know and you've experienced. So the expertise to increase our membership is really within this group, within your club, and with your leadership. So my approach is to look at membership in two parts. The first part is retaining your members. If we would retain members at a better rate than we do, we wouldn't have a relatively static membership. We lose quite a few members. Most clubs lose members every year. And not only to people moving out of the area, but people who come and join maybe for a year or two and then drop out. So the first thing we'll talk about tonight is retention of members. The second thing is how do we expand our membership? And here it seems to me one of the things that we fall into is we need more members. Our club doesn't have enough members. We've got to go out and get more members. And I'd like to turn that around a little bit. So what we're trying to do is provide an opportunity for people to join Rotary. We're really looking for Rotarians who don't know that they're Rotarians. They believe in the Rotary values expressed in the four-way test. They're interested in service above self. They just don't know they're Rotarians. And so by reaching out and finding those folks, we can offer them the opportunity to benefit by membership in a Rotary club. So we'll look at it two ways. The first, as I mentioned, is retention. So it seems to me that the start in retention, if you have a question or if I'm going too fast, you want to make a comment, just raise your hand and we'll see if we can see you on the screen. Looks like, there we go. They're not very, exciting slides, but they may keep me on track. You can go to the next one, Ed. Great. So it seems to me the place to get started when we're talking about membership in any club is you really need to know your club. Who are your members? Why did they join? What are their interests and concerns? Now, too often, because Rotary clubs tend to be friendship groups, we just assume that we know everybody in the club. They've been in the club for a long time. We've golfed with them. We have business with them. We just feel we know them. But do we really ask them about Rotary? Do we really find out what they're interested in? Why did they join Rotary? We know that a lot of younger people, first-time members, join because they are interested in networking. Now, we're not necessarily clubs focused around getting people business in their business, but it really is the case that new members often join for networking reasons. So we need to really to try to address that need. We know members stay because they become engaged with members, become engaged with Rotary. That's sometimes a hard thing to bridge that. So who are your members? Why did they join? What are their interests? What do they like and dislike about your club? And then the critical, are your members engaged? Engaged in the service opportunities, engaged in the activities of your club. Too often, clubs track attendance at meetings, but they don't really track attendance activities and service opportunities. And I would like, in my opinion, it's probably more important for our members to be part of our service activities than it is to come to every single meeting. Now that's good, and there's a certain fellowship and feeding that goes on at meetings, but really we're a club based on service above self. So I encourage you that if you're not tracking both of those and regularly looking at that data, I think I would encourage you to start there. How do you do that? Ask using surveys. You can create your own survey. There are surveys available at the district office. There's surveys available for Rotary International. Could be an easy 2 or 3 questions. What do you like? What's not? What do you think we should change? How are we doing? You can develop the questions based on your own club's needs. I encourage you to administer those surveys at least every couple of years, maybe every year. And there are multiple types of surveys out there that you can look at and see which one might fit your club. You can go on to the next slide, Ed. It's also important, and again, to know your community. Now, this isn't, again, it's not rocket science. It's not really new. I'm just bringing these things up to sort of re-engage your thinking on, your membership depends on your community and your engagement within the community. The demographics of your area, the needs of your community, how things have changed since your club was founded. This is, I think, a critical point. Too many clubs get into a habit, a formula. Every year we have an event in the fall. Every spring we do the road cleanup. And really what we need to do is always be cognizant of our communities, and communities change. A small town can become a commuter bedroom community. If you have a noon meeting and it's been there for a long time in a small town near a big city, and now many of your local people who live within your community now are commuting to work, they're not going to be around at noon for a noon meeting. So those are the kinds of things that take a critical look at. How has your community changed in the last 5 or 10 years? And then a critical analysis of how has your club changed to respond to that change in your community? How to do it? Talk to community leaders, do community surveys, talk to your club members through club assemblies, and look at other service clubs. Almost all of our communities have multiple service clubs. Look at what other clubs are doing and see if you can't find the niche, or maybe you'll in looking at yourself, you'll recognize the niche that you do hold. And that's so critical and so important that your club can be identified as, oh, that's the club that does the blood drives. Oh, they do the road cleanup. Oh, yes, they're responsible for that park. They put up the flags every holiday. The community needs to see your club doing something on a regular basis, and something of value, not something that might have been of value 10 or 20 or 30 years ago. So I would say talk to the local nonprofit leaders, talk to your political leaders in your community, talk to your religious leaders, and see what the needs are. Check that against what you've been providing or what you're doing in the community. Any questions on that, on those couple of slides?
Nope.
I don't see any hands coming up. Let's go on to the next slide. So we're talking now a little bit about retention. And I mentioned tracking attendance at your meetings and service projects and socials. And again, if you've got members who attend the meetings but don't attend the service projects and the activities, that should tell you something. There's an opportunity to reach out to those folks, find out what's really going on. Could be timing problems, could be that they're not really keen on the service projects that you've got going. I'm going to suggest that service projects and activities in your club really need to be looked at on a regular basis. Too often clubs, again, have been tied into things they've done years and years, for years and years. And, you know, at least in the clubs that I've been part of, many of the service projects get started by someone in the club who's a champion. Boy, so-and-so really is interested in international student exchange, and they're the champion for student exchange in our club. Well, that's great. That's fine. But sometimes those folks move on or leave your club, and the service project is there continuing. In some ways that can be good, but I think you have to take a critical look at, do our members really, are they really tied into our service projects and our activities? Are they activities that we do selected by current members? We've all heard the story about the Rotary Club that was sort of everything had to be passed by Bill to sort of meet Bill's expectations. And a new member joined. He said, "Well, you know, why don't we do it this way?" Well, Bill wouldn't like it. Well, why don't we do that way? Well, Bill wouldn't like it. Well, that's not the way Bill do it. Well, where's Bill? Oh, he died 5 years ago. So it's a matter of making sure that everything that you do is fully supported by your current members. The other indicator, it seems to me, is leadership continuity. If you're struggling in your leadership development, moving from secretary, treasurer, president, however you do that in your club, that's an indicator that it's time to take some analysis, to do some analysis about your club, and is it meeting the needs of the current members? Certainly, you're always going to be looking at your retention rates, but you know, there are other indicators as well. How do you do these things? I would say regular visioning involving all members. The district has a visioning team that will help you and your club develop a vision process so you can put together plans for the future. And I think it's really important to involve all members. Too often, a small group does the visioning or does the planning, and then it comes down from above to the members. And I really would encourage you to make sure that you're involving all members in the planning and visioning. And then that's done on a regular basis. Certainly, you know, once every couple of years, I would suggest a limited version every year as part of your planning process. Let's go on to the next one, Ed. New members are very important to us, obviously, and just want to check, do a little checklist here of what you might be doing for your new members. Certainly a meaningful orientation. Often this is a data dump. Here's our committee structure. Here's how we become president. Here's what our activities are. This is the budget. And it's, you know, it may be an hour over a breakfast or a lunch, and it's just too much information. So take a look at your orientation process and make sure that you know, it's valuable information, and think about that. All information should be on a need to know basis. So just in time basis. So think about what your new members need. What are the new members going to need as part of an orientation in the next 3 months or 6 months or the first year? Don't try to dump everything your club does and its entire history on a new member. Put together a welcome kit, brochures about what you're doing, members, activities, and a calendar for the year. This is one thing. It's interesting to me how oftentimes a new member comes into a club The club has a schedule of activities, but the club has been doing those activities so long that everybody knows that in June we have our big street fair. Everybody knows the wine tasting is in the fall. And so a new member doesn't really know that information. And suddenly, if it's like sometimes in my club, the clipboard gets passed around a week before the wine tasting. And, you know, by that time, my schedule's booked. I need to know weeks, if not months in advance for the activities. And sometimes that's just, it's again, part of the inward looking that's so common to long established clubs. New member mentoring program. We at White Bear Rotary just instituted last spring new member mentoring program, and it's going pretty well. I encourage you to look at that if you haven't been doing it. Ours is a relatively formal program where we have all new members participate in the mentoring program. Our mentors are people who have been in our club at least a year. We really don't take volunteers as mentors, but we do take nominations. So to be a mentor in our club, you have to be nominated by another club member. It's relatively easy to get people engaged as mentors if you come up to them and say, well, you know, Susan, you've been nominated by 3 people to be a mentor for our new members. We think that there are people in the club who really believe you've got what it takes to be a good mentor. That's different than anybody who wants to volunteer, sign the clipboard as it goes around. It's nice to have those people know that they're appreciated by someone else in the club and that they would make a good mentor. We have a formal program, as I said. All the mentors go through about an hour training process, and then our new members are assigned mentors as they come in. We have what we call a passport program. It's a list of about 8 or 9 things that we want the mentors to do with their mentees as they go through the first 3 months. And as I said, it's going pretty well. And again, probably something everyone understands, but we need to get our new members involved in service projects right away, and right away in leadership. That's not necessarily on the path to the president of the club, but certainly involved in a committee, in a planning a process, planning one of the activities. Get them involved as quickly as you possibly can. And we have that. We're encouraging our mentors to work with our mentees to get them involved right away in the first 3 months. Any questions about any of those membership on retention?
I think a good feedback questionnaire might be something at the end of the year, after 1 year of a new member, having a feedback questionnaire might be good.
That's a great idea. I really support that idea. We hope to be doing that for our new members as part of the mentorship program after the first year. And we're also going to be surveying the mentors to see how the process went for them and ways we can improve. But that's absolutely a great idea. And again, maybe even, it depends on the club in terms of how often you're doing a survey within the club. But again, the years 2 and 3 are really critical for new members. That's when we lose new members. Generally, they'll get through a year, but years 2 and 3, Rotary clubs tend to lose members. So make sure that you really are paying attention to that group. And you can do that as part of a club-wide survey process. But I think great idea to do some sort of survey a year in for those new members. Now, we tell our mentors that the mentorship program only lasts for 3 months. If they can get all their activities on the passport done in 3 months, we say it's formally over. But we know that likely as not, those mentors will keep an eye out for those new members for the foreseeable future. Any other thoughts? Any other questions?
Steve, this is Noel Krugman. I'm in LeSueur.
Sure.
Let me share with you and all the people here. In the Rotary Club of LeSueur, starting about 4 years ago, when the Council on Legislation let us ease attendance and keeping records, we switched going completely from attendance to engagement and changed our bylaws, which is what you're supposed to do. And we don't track attendance at meetings strictly. It's one of the pieces of engagement. So on our check-in at every meeting, we have their name and the various columns. One is the meeting they're attending, but the others would be, for example, being involved in Strive, being involved in we call them teams, not committees, in a team meeting, doing a service project, working on our backpack program. So we know how many times people are actually, so to speak, touching the club and vice versa. In other words, they're engaged. And it really helps us track who's really involved. Jokingly, with our Strive people who are very active, I once told them they could have their own club because they've got so many check marks indicating what they're doing. But the point is, engagement's really important, and it really does. It has helped our membership both in terms of retention and getting new members. So just a thought.
I think that's great. I really do. I think the attendance, for some reasons, so many clubs, and I've been involved with 4 clubs. It seems to be a focus on club attendance. I mean, on committee meeting attendance. It should be about service. It should be about activities, serving the community. So I really applaud that program.
It also includes, by the way, any social event that we might have.
Sure.
And so that encourages people. The modern world, people don't care about checking that they've been at a meeting. They like knowing what they've done. I think that's more important. So.
That's great. Other thoughts?
Yeah, Steve, I mean, you've had, Pam's been involved in development of the mentor program in your club, right? And one thing just to point out, like you, I'm in my 4th district, and I've been in a club before that the person that brought the individual in was the mentor. And sometimes that was the worst thing you wanted to do because they didn't know nothing about Rotary. So I think what you guys are doing is really good.
I think that's a great point, that we purposely decided not to do that. Not because we were worried about that individual being a mentor necessarily, but because then the new member has 2 contacts. They've got the person that invited them into the Rotary and sponsored them, and they have a person, their formal mentor. So it just expands the contact base. That's another reason to do it that way. Thank you. Other thoughts? Other questions?
I'm Dana Bruce with the St. Paul Club, and actually I work on membership. Our club has had a lot of really good success with growing our membership, and so I just wanted to kind of point out like some of the things that you brought up on your slides that really helped for us. And first of all, I think the first and foremost thing that every single club needs to do is the visionary process that the whole club is involved in, because that gives everybody a platform to realize this is what we're really about. This is what we're good at. This is what we all believe we want to put forth in our community. And so from there, we were able to go on, and use even that visioning, our 5-year vision in all of our slides, like for new member orientation. Everything kind of ties back to where we want to go. Instead of even like talking about the history of the club, we go kind of forward with where we're forward thinking about going. And then, like you said, that about analyzing your community and seeing where because you've done this great work and you know where your niche is, where your vision is bringing you, then you can look at the niches in the community. And for us, we have a lot of smaller or medium to smaller size businesses that want to get involved with other community leaders. They want to, they want to serve their community, but they're too busy. They're in their offices all the time. So we came up with like a business membership. And that, a couple people from an office could either come to the meetings together or get involved together, but they didn't feel the pressure of having to be at every meeting. But what ended up happening is that we have like 2 people from one company, but they come to all the meetings, but they didn't think they thought they were too busy to do that. But it gave them flexibility, and you didn't get that no right away. So anyway, so those are kinds of the things. And then we, then we do have the mentoring, and we have the new member orientation. So people get involved. And then we have, the other great thing that we did is a new member project, where they have their own budget, they have their own ability to take a leadership, because we attract leaders anyway, so they can lead something right away. And they just went game busters and, kind of came up with their own project. So I think like the visioning, the finding the niche that your club really does meet, or the needs for your people in your community, I think that really helps a lot. And then you getting them engaged. So that's it.
Great. Thank you, Dina. Could you tell me a little bit more about the new member project? Because I think that's something that clubs should look at if they haven't looked at that. I was part of a club out in Pennsylvania that did that. The new members were given a certain amount of dollar amount, and then they were supposed to go out. We were supposed to go out and do that. In that particular club, it didn't work very well because we had so few new members coming in that it was just hard to sort of generate a project that was meaningful. Have you found that to be the case? Or
yeah, well, with our club, we were really lucky in that some of our longer standing members went out to somebody in the Rondo neighborhood and met with him, Marvin Anderson, and said, what's something we can help you with in your community? And we helped them in their community on a high level, like we helped them renovate a building. But then it brought in the trust. So then he's like, I got to join you guys. Like, I'm going to join your club. So now we've got Marvin Anderson, the leader of the Rondo community neighborhood, in our club. Then we also have another newer member from the neighborhood house and these things. So when the police and the fire department came to Marvin and said, we need to do some things in your neighborhood and we want to team up with you, he's like, well, team up with me, but also I've got this great group of Rotarians that if we all got together, we'd really be able to make more of an impact. So what they came up with, and then we also have people that are on the, represent the Wild and the Saints and the United team. And so we've got that kind of fun energy. So they got together with the people from the Rondo community, and they were going to have this big, and the police and the fire department to have a health and wellness fair. And of course that was going to be on June 13th, and it was going to be this big event. But, we had a new member who was one of our business memberships, and they would own a insurance company. So they already got the helmets donated because the police department has they have a bike helmet initiative that they want to get the kids riding bikes, and they do a rodeo and stuff like that. So we still have the helmets. We still have, the hockey sticks donated and the plastic pucks. And we still have all these things that need to go out to the community just as much now as they did. And actually, when we met with the people from the Haley Q Center, they're like, we need these things even more. And if you could add masks and cleaning products and all these other things onto what we're going to distribute, like through a parade, it'll be even more impactful. And then have a follow-up event when we can. And then the follow-up thing, like the Wild is going to have a learn to skate for the kids that get the hockey pucks and this, if they want to do this. And so it'll be more in stages than we were just going to have one big event, but now we're going to stage it out and make it more, and we know more what we need to do. Sure. And so it's just one of those things that you get Rotarians together and they figure out, we need soaps, we need this. I work for a hotel. We're backed up on soap,
Sure.
These kind of things just start happening when you get that kind of group together. And so it's, and then we're getting more diverse people too, because we're involved in the communities that we want to, we don't just say, oh, we want you to join our club. We're involved. And then they're like, oh, these people, we got to join them,
Sure.
So,
great. Well, thank you.
So we're still working on it though.
Thank you for sharing. I think one of the other things that if you can't, if your club isn't in position to sort of set aside money for new members, or you don't have enough new members to generate a project and carry it forward, the other thing that you should consider, if you're not doing it, is putting a time limit on your projects. Or on your grants. So many clubs, you know, we always give X number of dollars to the Boy Scouts every year. And again, most of those projects, most of those activities, there's nothing wrong with the Boy Scouts, but the champion moves on. The Boy Scouts, that club continues to get the money, and maybe that's exactly what your club wants to do. But you need to make sure that your new members support that idea. So some clubs could see their way to saying, we're going to give you a grant for 3 years. We promise X number of dollars over 3 years. And then at that point, there'll be a review of all that we're doing. And so and if you formalize that process as part of the process, then it's a natural thing. It's year, time for review, and maybe that the Boy Scouts will get the grant for the next 3 years, or maybe it's just time to move on to some other organization because there's somebody in your organization, your club, that's excited about something different, something new. So it's a formal way of making an easy transition for future projects. I'm going to move on. Let's go to. I'm on find current members who are excited about Rotary. I don't know that we even need that. Maybe it's just more fun to look at people.
Sure.
I think that, as I mentioned, in terms of expansion now, you really need to be working with the people who are excited in your club about Rotary. So a membership committee, if you've got a membership committee, it's got to really have people on it who are still excited about Rotary, and should have a couple of new people on that team, because you need that excitement to, in some ways, challenge some of maybe the club history and what's been going on, to make some changes. People sometimes, members, I think, in clubs today don't realize how flexible Rotary International really is. There was a time where it was all about attendance at club meetings. It was all about, you had to do this and you had to do it this way. And now, as I understand it from Rotary International, they're saying, we're flexible. Be open. Look at your community. Develop new membership types if that's going to serve your community. I mean, there are some things that are non-negotiable, but more. I mean, it's been opened up, and Rotary International is much more flexible than it used to be. I think that's fair to say. In terms of membership, I would encourage your team to develop a plan, set goals, but again, don't get obsessed with numbers. So often our clubs, we're going to be 600 people by, we're going to be 100 people by, we're going to be 10 people, we're going to add, and it's all about numbers. What you're really doing is offering the opportunity of Rotary, the benefits of Rotary, to the people in your community that would benefit by that. They're Rotarians, they don't know it. You're going to bring what Rotary can offer to them, and I think that's important. Be realistic with your goals. I would set retention goals as well as expansion, increasing membership goals, and remember, you're in it for the long term. Too often we set a plan, do a goal, a set of goals, and a new president takes over, and the energy goes out of it. Think about the long-term 3 to 5 year goal rather than a very tight, hard, specific goal. We can move on to the next one. Yeah.
Steve, I think you may have muted yourself.
Oh, gee will. No, I'm.
Not, I can hear you now.
Yep, there we go. I would encourage you to look for previous members. If you've changed your club recently, switched meeting times, become more flexible, you might want to reach out to previous members, people who you've lost in the last couple of years. We've heard of clubs now on Zoom that are getting members back because it's more convenient for them to attend the meetings. So don't be afraid to reach out to those folks. If you made other changes, just a simple email or a note that says, boy, you know, we've made some changes here and you might be interested. I think that I would encourage you to reach out to, I'm on the slide that says, look for previous members. I don't know. Look for,
We lost your voice again.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Can you hear me now? There we go. Look for groups in your community. Look for Rotaractors. We have a terrible history with moving Rotaractors from Rotaractors into Rotary clubs. I encourage you to look and see if you can't do a better job partnering up with the Rotaractors in your area. Check former exchange students and their parents. There are clubs that really do a good job at making sure the former exchange students stay involved and their parents continue to be involved. Look for special interest groups in your area. Not every Rotary club nowadays has to be related by geography. There are special interest groups. Everyone's heard about the Veterans Rotary Club in the Twin Cities. There are clubs focused on environmental issues. There are peace and justice clubs. So maybe in your community, you need to think about starting an associate club, or maybe a satellite club, or any number of ways you can find a group in your community, existing group, and you can bring Rotary and the benefits of Rotary to that particular group. Focus on providing value. I'm really keen on this issue. So often in membership we hear, oh, I'd like to join Rotary, but it's too expensive. I just can't afford it. I've got a young family. We don't have that extra money. When you hear that, if you hear that, I encourage you to hear it's not worth it for me. It's not of value. It's not probably really the dollars that are the issue. It's that I don't, as a prospective member, I don't see the value in doing it. Or as a member who's joined recently, I'm not getting value for my money. So I think it's really important that we really, really focus in all of the retention, promotion, and membership in making sure we understand what the individual wants, what are their needs, and how we can provide that for them as part of membership in our clubs. Let's go on to the next one, Ed. So, and here, this is the value proposition. As a new member, as a prospective member, why would I want to join your club? I mean, flat out, the cost versus the value. What do I get? If all I get for my my club dues is to come to a meeting and feel like I'm guilty if I don't, I'm kind of guilty if I don't come to a meeting once a week. I don't need to pay for that. If all I get out of Rotary is an opportunity to do service, I can do service at my church and not pay any monthly dues to do that. I think you really need to take a hard look at what are the things that you're providing? What are the benefits to Rotary? And again, know that the Rotary is one of those things that's hard to, I don't use the word sell, but it is hard to really fully explain the value of Rotary unless you're participating in Rotary. It's something from the outside that you might not really see value in. Once you get inside Rotary, most people really do come to understand the value of it. And what is unique about your club? I mean, that might be the value proposition. We're the only club in this area that does so-and-so. If you're interested in that, we're the club that you should join. And again, this is something I think Ed has mentioned, to me at least, have Rotaries join them, not them join Rotary, in the sense of, if you find an interest group in your area, you can bring the resources of Rotary, the grants available, the international connections, the business connection, all of those things to that group. Think about it in that way, rather than, we need members, we've got to have more members, let's go out and find some more members. Again, you're thinking about selling the value, providing the value for the prospective members, and even of value to your current members. And I think that's another mistake that we often make, is we assume that our members are all supportive, are all keyed in. They pay their dues, they show up, until they don't. And then it's, well, gee, what happened to that person? All of a sudden, well, if you've lost a member, that member has probably been thinking about leaving for some weeks, months, even years before they actually do. So that there again points us back to the beginning, when we talked about really knowing our members and what they're expecting. I think let's go to the, do we have one more? No, that's
it.
Yeah. So now let's open it up for questions, thoughts, responses. I'm anxious to hear your thoughts.
Hi, I'm Khadija. As a new member, I've actually had to do my induction and all that on Zoom, so I've not had very many in-person meetings. I joined the Rotary because my friends in Kenya sent me to the friends in Rotary here in Minnesota. So I'm in the Roseville Rotary Club. As a new member, what I typically feel like is that if I have any questions, and typically I would have some really hard questions because I come from the perspective of a minority. And so I feel like people feel attacked if I question things like why we do the four-way the way we do it. Why is it worded the way it's worded? What does it mean to be right versus what does it mean to be fair? And who's deciding what's right and what's fair? So I feel like people are like, oh, how dare you question the very core thing that holds us together? So I have learned to not speak up. So how do we talk to our Rotary members that are right there to say, look, there's nothing wrong with questions. That is how we grow. And maybe some of these things need to be rethought and thought again, and maybe talk to our prospective Rotary members on why it's worded that way, and that we're willing to engage in a conversation because we're not set in stone. So that's, I guess my question is how can we still be flexible? Because I think to be a global citizen, which Rotary is, we have to be willing to take a global platform and word our pledges in a global way.
Well, thank you so much for bringing that up. And I want to tell you that Rotary needs you. Rotary needs you and those ideas and that questioning. We need that for the future. So please continue that. And in terms of suggestions, maybe we can answer that one as a group. I would encourage you to talk to the leadership of the club if that's possible, because oftentimes the leadership are keyed into all the development, and they're keyed into Rotary International and the district offices and all of those. And I think I found those folks at multiple levels outside of the club level being very open and flexible and looking forward to change. So anyone else have a thought on that particular issue? How do we create an environment in our clubs where questioning and just asking why we do things the way we do and is it the best way is supported? Any advice?
Steve, this is Carol Weigel.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely right on. And some of that goes back to the survey thing. Rather than having somebody raise their hand and say, how come we're doing this? If you do that in a survey, it's not as obvious. Well, obvious maybe it's not the right word, but nobody's saying, oh, well, Carol said this, and that's not right. You have people have an opportunity to look at what folks have said. I like this, or I don't care for that. I'd like to see us do this, as opposed to what we've been doing, or add to whatever. But then you have a leadership in the club to go over all of those things and then present that back to the club members so they know and understand that what they have done in terms of the survey actually has made some difference. Otherwise, why do I bother with this?
Right, absolutely. I think that's a very important point. If you're doing surveys and if you're asking people for thoughts about your club, you really, really need to act on those. Yeah. At least report back. Here's what we heard. Here are the things we think we're working on. Here's the things we need to talk about for the future. And maybe on some of these things we need to change as a group. So absolutely. Key point. Yeah. Other thoughts on how we can create an environment? Dana?
I think that sometimes, I think that it's absolutely very important that you speak up and say what you feel. Yep. And then if there's somebody that you connect with more in your club, because I think sometimes surveys go so far, but if you have an actual connection with another person, you don't need to necessarily connect with every person in your Rotary Club, but you need to connect with a few. And so if you could seek out somebody that's in the leadership that you feel like you can connect to, and then work together to communicate what you're feeling, because that's obviously something that you're concerned about, and I think it's very important that you reach out and continue to do that.
In a couple of the clubs that I've been part of, there was this sort of feeling that, oh boy, we can't make change. We've always done it this way. That was the sense of the club. But when we really asked the club through surveys, we found that most of the people were absolutely fine with change. They understood that change was needed. So there may be a sense that, boy, this is a club that just isn't interested in changing, or even old so-and-so, they'll never let us do that. Well, you got to have the conversation. A survey is one way to sort of get it out on the table. Yeah.
I would say, Steve, but you always have to be willing that those 2 or 3 people that are stuck in that and they're held to it, you may lose them. And they may be contributing to the club, but you have to be brave, I guess, and say, yeah, we're willing to lose those individuals.
I would agree there. I think sometimes that happens. And sometimes they leave and sometimes then they come back.
Yep.
And to bring it back to the original, when you talked about that Rotary on a district level has a whole visioning process, that the people that run that process do such a good job at including, everyone, because you break out into sessions and do that. And so if you have people that, believe me, my club sometimes was a little averse to change, and now we've changed a lot and people are really happy. So, but it was a long process of committing to doing that visionary process. And I don't know what other clubs, how many have done it, but I think it's an important thing to consider.
Thank you. One more thing on that topic, and that is it's very easy to get involved with Rotary above your club level. There are oftentimes throughout the year events put on by the district that are on various topics. Ed knows more than I do about these various things, but it's easy to go to those. And then you also will find people who have similar interests and similar ideas, and that you can find support above the club level that can then work backwards into the club. Other thoughts, other questions, other issues? Thanks very much for bringing that up.
I just want to say I love my Rotary. I've really made some really good friends. We have very good discussions, and this particular topic, we've opened it up to the folks in Uganda and Nairobi to see what their thoughts are. So the conversation is going on, but I just wanted to say not to be scared of bringing even the big ones, the ones that has been done since 1932, which is what the 4-way has been done, can be thought through. If we want to keep it, then we keep it.
Yes, absolutely. And the other piece of a change process is it often works better if it's additive. Instead of saying, you know, we've got to get rid of this to do this, there are sometimes you can add things. Well, let's start a subgroup in our Rotary that's focused on these peace and justice issues. Doesn't mean you have to get rid of something to do it. That might fall away over time if what the change is something that becomes seen as a positive to the rest of the group. So it always works better as an additive than a this or that, either or. Other thoughts, other questions? We're running, I think we're going to close it down at 8. Is that right, Ed?
Thereabouts, yep.
Yeah, so other questions, other issues? One more thing then before as we tie it up here. The district membership team is available to your club at any time. So if you need help, if you think you would you know, maybe you're facing a difficult change process and the club doesn't want to commit to a visioning process, but you know, you can ask the district membership team to come in and maybe do a session on membership, increasing membership. If there are particular problems you're running into with retention, you know, give us a call, get in touch with the district office, and they can get in touch with a membership team, and we can, you know, brainstorm with you. So we're always available. There's a ton of membership resources on the district site and at the Rotary International site. So I would encourage you, if you're the leader of your membership team and maybe taking over start there. Look at those resources, and then don't be afraid to get in contact with the district membership team for help or advice. Or
just one question. This is the noob. Like, has any club done any kind of a voice of the community? Like we do voice of customer for Six Sigma processes. Like, is there anything like a voice of the community? Like kind of going out and talking to people and finding out what the needs are, maybe the stakeholders in the city or the police or the schools, etc.
I'm too new in the area to know here if clubs have done that. I would certainly encourage that. I think that's exactly what clubs ought to be doing, to fill the niches, to be distinctive, to reach out to, again, the political community, the police, fire departments. We're often working with these groups, but seldom do we actually go out there and actually do some sort of community survey or one-to-one conversation. But I think it's a great idea. And if something's really working well in your club with retention and with expansion of membership, please feed it back to us at the district level. As Ed said, once every quarter, we're going to have an open meeting, a Zoom meeting. And if you're on your membership team and you've got a good idea or something working well, or if you hit a roadblock, come to that meeting and share it with us. And maybe the collective can give you some advice.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really interesting. So this is Dale. Sorry, I joined the meeting late because I was involved in another meeting, actually with my 2 boys. So I got. But anyway, you don't give that up when all of a sudden they're on the line. But what's interesting with what the person just said in terms of, are we going out and meeting with our constituents, in a sense, people in our community as to what they need. In a sense, right? That's what we ask from global grants, which is that you actually do a needs assessment and you don't assume you know what the community needs, but you ask. But maybe that's one way to become, perhaps, I think some clubs are better than others in terms of based on their membership, in terms of who they have at the table to begin with. But for clubs that perhaps don't have that diverse membership, that maybe that's an incredibly smart place to start, which is to go out and find out what your community really needs, because you are completely irrelevant if you've decided they need one thing, but the people on the front line really need something different. So I think that was a fabulous point.
Great. Yeah.
And it's really a great way to build your membership, because Rotary is all about connecting and connecting the correct people. And so for sometimes, you know, St. Paul has a lot of great nonprofits, and we have a lot of them that join our club, and they are the inspiration point. They are people that you sit by at the meeting and you go, wow, our community is just making a difference. And some people would be like, oh, you know, not as open to having so many people, you know, in development and nonprofits, but it's only grown our club and it's only made it better. And so, you know, then they know other people that are doing great things in the community. And so then you're involved and connected again with the leaders in your community that are doing good things. And then we don't have to be the people that figure out how to get what we're good at doing out to the community, because they already have the trust in the relationships. We just get to come in and help them. So we're not trying to recreate the wheel. We're connecting with the people that are doing a good job. Now my son's singing in the background.
Thank you. Other thoughts before we close? Ed, I think that's it.
Thank you, Steve. And
Great.
thank you, everyone, for attending, and have a good evening. And come back around tomorrow if you want to learn more about the foundation. And on Thursday evening, it'll be on public image. So
We'll be here.
okay, we'll see you then.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.